There you go, Dan. It's all yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is a Town of Warren Planning Commission meeting. The date is Monday, June 23rd, 2025. Calling the meeting to order at 7:07 PM, a little bit late tonight. The first item on the agenda is agenda changes. Does anyone have an agenda change? I have a minor one, which is after Sam does his presentation, not his presentation, but his discussion. He'll give us an update from the MRVPD. So it's a minor change. Good evening, Adam.
Hey, certainly.
No worries, happy you're here. Second item on the agenda is review and approve previous minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those?
I did.
Nope. You did not look at them? You want to take a minute to look at them, Jim? And once you got a chance to look at them, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Wow, these are great minutes, Carol.
They're very helpful.
Very, very helpful.
Carol's
Should hold
good,
on
no
to
doubt
these.
about it, but those were especially good. I agree.
These are damn good. These are damn good minutes.
Well, and now we have notes of everything because I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what Dan and Britton said. Okay, are we ready for a motion to approve the minutes? We'll take 1 more minute to read over them.
Your little synopsis on Front Porch Forum was very good.
oh, thank you. I finally got back into it.
That's awesome, Michelle.
Yeah,
We
I
really
just-
appreciate it.
Couldn't get myself to do it for a couple months there, but
Been a little busy, have you?
yeah,
Just a
I
little.
finally was like, okay, I can do this.
Okay.
I'll try to keep up with it. I didn't want to say too much, but like just enough.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. It's really great. All right, what about a motion to approve the minutes from last week? Do we have a motion? Jim, are you worried about something?
No.
No.
Approve the minutes.
I'll
Okay,
second.
second. We have a motion and excuse me, second. All in favor of approving the minutes of Monday, June 9th, 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Awesome. The next item on the agenda is general public comments. Does anyone from the public have a comment? Going on in this area.
I'm wondering if my Front Porch Forum post was confusing. Like it made it sound like these are things we're going to discuss at the next meeting, as opposed to a summary of what we had discussed.
I doubt it. I wouldn't take responsibility for that.
Even if it was, it makes people show up for it, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Two more people. We can talk about it if you show up.
Yeah, I mean, we told them we'd help them collect
Do you want to
ideas,
make a public
so we
comment?
can
about
collect
anything?
ideas.
Or is it our forum for public comment?
No, I'd love to attend a meeting, the next meeting when it's talked about.
Okay, I think what we've talked about is a community visioning meeting in September. Which we,
September,
yeah,
okay.
assuming
Yeah.
the acquisition goes through.
Yeah.
I'm not anticipating a meeting with Britton and Dan Riker and the whole group before then.
Okay.
I mean, if something comes up, we'll make sure you're alerted.
Do you
but,
think they're gonna table at the August 20th event? Because that'd be another chance for people to give them feedback. I didn't get a read on whether they were definitely gonna do that. They seemed interested, but we're having an event on the municipal green on August 20th, just a
Okay.
community gathering, and we encourage them to like table and sort of encourage people to come and talk to them about their ideas.
Excellent.
So we could follow up and see if they're doing that.
Yeah, I'll pressure Britain too.
Mhm.
Show up.
Perfect.
'Cause
Yeah.
you're, remind me,
I'm Zeb Swick.
Zeb Swick, and you said you're very connected to that.
Yeah,
group,
it was me and Dan Riker who,
right? Right, So
who
Dan and
past
Britain.
7 months we've been working.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'd like to be a part of it.
Well, it's too bad you weren't there when Britton and Dan were there. I think the meetings are probably recorded,
Yeah,
but it was not, there was mostly, we could review what we just said, but it was an overview of the project.
Yeah.
And then as it stands now, all very sort of tentative, and they said they wanted community input, and we said we'd love to kind of co-sponsor
great.
visioning exercise with them in September. So,
Good to hear that.
yeah, so
Great,
that's,
okay.
do you know Adam? That's
Yeah,
familiar.
here.
I think I may have, did you build a cabin with Sammy in Roxbury? I lived in that cabin through the winter.
Oh, nice,
It's
yeah,
such a beautiful
yeah,
place.
thanks, yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah.
creating such a beautiful, magical place.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
Dan Raddock,
Yeah,
Jim Sanford, Jim
Yeah.
Kraft, Michelle Bennett, Sam Robinson from the
Yeah.
Maverick Planning
Hey, Zeb.
District.
Sam, how you doing?
Good, nice to see you.
And you're
Yeah.
of course welcome to stay and listen to our meeting if you want, or welcome, just-
I'll stay out of your hair.
Okay.
It's hot, I'm gonna go swimming.
Yeah, but for the next time,
Yeah.
so you guys will post
Yeah,
something,
yes, it's, as I
Okay.
said, the agenda is posted on the town
Yeah.
website on the Friday before the Monday of the meetings. We
Okay.
meet on the second and fourth Mondays of the month.
okay,
And if you have any questions, just call me.
yeah,
You know,
Okay.
you know my
I'll
number.
look
I've
for
got
that.
your number, you
And
know.
for the visioning exercise, assuming that goes forward, which we really
Yeah.
hope it does.
Yeah.
We will be trying to publicize that really
Yeah.
hard
yeah,
to get
that's
as
great,
much community turnout as we can.
that's great.
But right now,
That's good to hear.
everything's so preliminary, nothing's really, you know.
Yeah, we'll be publicizing the community gathering once we have a permit. That's once we actually have the permit, then it will be lots of
Working on it, we got
publicizing
it
and
written
marketing.
up.
And
Awesome.
hopefully
Yeah.
they'll join us.
Damn.
Awesome, yeah, it's such an important piece of property, and I think
Yeah,
the more town people that have a say, the better for them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you
Totally.
can't do something like that without reaching out.
Well, you could, but it's better. if you-
Well, yeah,
it's better here in person.
Yeah,
yeah, true.
In general.
yes, tomorrow gets that too.
Right.
yep.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks,
Nice to
Sam.
meet you.
Thanks, Sam.
All right, speaking of Sam Robinson, the next item on our agenda is discussion with Sam Robinson regarding housing feasibility study grant. Take it away, Sam.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys. This will be not like really a formal presentation, just more of a discussion. But to give you a little bit of backstory, every month, the planning district before our monthly meeting, which occurs the third Thursday of the month, we put together like the staff report. And it kind of talks about things that staff have been working on, but also just collects a lot of different grant opportunities. And we try and cover kind of the whole gamut. We'll look for housing grants, economic development, disaster resilience, and not for this month's report, but last month's report, I was going through my usual kind of like emails, also just looking on different websites that I kind of scan every so often for grant opportunities. And I saw a grant from Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. It's their Housing Feasibility Project Fund. And that grant program is essentially aimed at answering the question, is this project feasible?
Oops, you just, okay.
Feasible. You're wondering, could this site support housing? Could it not? What might the challenges be? This program is essentially aimed at answering those questions. And it kind of come up into mind shortly after I attended the PC meeting with Josh and Darcy, I think. I'm pretty sure it's Darcy.
Yep. Jameson.
Yeah, and I remember hearing a comment through the conversation about specifically the town garage site that maybe at one point in time there was like a phase 1 environmental assessment that had been done on the site, but we weren't sure if it was too old, or there's also just questions generally. I know it kind of is contingent upon the town garage moving altogether, but it seemed like there were questions about, there's a lot of ideas about what that site could be. Seemed like there were also some questions about maybe what might work well there. And this just seemed like a really good opportunity to help answer some of those. So to give you a little bit more information, I also emailed it, but it was very last minute, so it might be something you could look at afterwards. I doubt anyone had time to look at it before the meeting. But I did email kind of a PDF that I just went through and highlighted some of the relevant information. But the grant is a smaller scale grant, but because it's just assessing feasibility, I think there's a lot you could do with it. So for a single project, which this seems like it would be under the guidelines, you can request up to $20,000 to assess the feasibility. The only eligibility criteria are you have to be a nonprofit or a municipality, which you guys would definitely meet that as well. And some of the examples for projects that they offer up in this are you can do things like appraisals, you can do financial planning, there's also the opportunity to do site design and land use planning. I know you guys have a lot of experience on the board in that particular department as well, but I know also being volunteer run boards, it can be hard to actually make time for all of that. So you could use, $20,000 to hire consultants to help you with any kind of site layout, land use planning. You could also do septic suitability tests. I know that Warren has a system in place. I don't know how much like excess there would be, or if that's something that this property could tie into. But there's a lot of opportunity, I think, and I just thought it might be worth having a conversation. The grant deadline, this is a rolling program, so it will come around again. This year's window is closing. I think applications need to be submitted on July 10th and be reviewed in early October, I believe. It's kind of like a twice a year cycle. There's both housing and conservation projects. So really that's most of the information I had to share, and kind of just wanted to have a discussion with you all. I brought it up to Kaylee on the select board. She stopped by my office about a month ago, and then I sent an email, and I realized last week that I hadn't followed up on it. So I just really wanted to have a conversation and see if you guys think there might be a use for this. If so, the planning district is more than happy to help. We've helped like Waitsfield with a lot of similar projects in the last couple of years, different designation programs, also helped them get a municipal planning grant. So this is the kind of thing that even if it's not now, planning district is more than happy to assist with these types of projects. But I would definitely be interested in hearing any ideas that you guys have, or if there's, maybe it's too much to do now, maybe it's not, but I guess I just open it up to you guys and see what your thoughts are.
My first reaction is, hell yeah, let's do it. But
Mhm.
Ruth, do you want to say something?
Well, two things. One, it could be somewhat premature because you don't know how things are going to happen though we're all very optimistic with the town garage. The one thing that comes to mind first to me that we should do no matter what is to get an updated Brownsfield, because that's going to be one of the first things. And we did have one done in 2008, I think it is. And I think that would be the number one thing to do.
Sounds like we could do that with this.
With this, yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that I think we should have no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Why would we-
anything,
why
if
would we
anything,
wait? Why
if
would we
anything,
do
if
that?
we could get that and get it in time where we know what the results are before the November thing, and we can tell people, listen, we gotta get out of there.
Well, the thing
Yeah.
is, we can no longer hold the town garage there, no matter what is happening in the town's future. It is incapable of housing our current town garage needs.
Mhm.
So I don't think it would be premature in any
Okay.
way. And I think that thank you for bringing this to our attention, Sam. I really love the idea of this grant because I'm looking at the points, the 8 points that you're mentioning here, and it would give us a really good comprehensive analysis of what's possible on that lot. And for that, it's sort of a low stakes entry level opportunity to understand that lot for, like a $20,000 grant. I mean, I think that would be very
Yeah.
beneficial to the town, no matter what the results bring up.
And if it's
Totally.
a
The other
rolling
thing,
thing, could it
just
be?
to add one other thing, is that a former select board member had mentioned skepticism that the site was suitable for housing.
Mm.
So I suspect that concern, which we don't share, but maybe out there. So why not
Yeah.
put that issue to bed, you know?
I mean, it's like anything, it's like, how do you plan something in an area when you don't really know what it can house, what it can hold, and what it can provide for the community?
Yeah, I mean, if that former select
Start
board
with
member
that.
is right, and it's not suitable, then let's stop wasting, let's stop wasting our time
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah.
If it is suitable, then let's move forward, because it's a
What
great
were the
location.
reasons why it wasn't suitable?
The slopes, or something about the slopes and unstable, he thought something might be unstable, but I think that's just, I don't think any,
I think the slopes are really damaged,
Yeah.
and access at all different levels.
oh, totally. So what do you, what, in terms of resources from the planning commission, from this planning commission, Sam, what will you need from us to
Yeah, just
progress.
because if anything, July 10th is like right around the corner.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, we got July 4th in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think the real. So I tried to call VHCB last week because I wanted to just talk to them about. I wanted to see if they had any like concrete projects that had been done in the past because I couldn't actually find any online, and I also just wanted to talk to them a little bit more about the application process because this PDF is like it gives some guidelines of what you're supposed to provide, but I couldn't find like a concrete like here are the questions that we need you to answer outside of that. So I want to have a conversation with them about that. But I think the real thing would be I would just want to be clear on the project that you want to have applied for. I think, Ruth, you were saying brownfield
Yeah,
remediation? Okay.
That's
So,
just test for toxic or hazardous waste or other environmental analysis.
yeah, item
Yeah.
4.
That's item 4.
Well,
Okay.
also, Keziah suggested doing market studies. Could we fit that one in too?
That's item 6 or something like that.
Yeah. I think there's probably, I think it makes sense to me that you could probably try and couple a couple different things. So yeah, definitely doing some sort of site testing for hazardous materials, and then I could talk to them about potentially trying to do some sort of market study as well. Really, I'm happy to involve the planning commission as much as everyone is interested. Like we could do a shared Google Drive, but I'm also more than happy to like take the brunt of filling all this out. And then if people just want to, have access to the files and you can read them and definitely add to them, or if you don't have time to add to them, you could just make comments if there's anything that I'm missing or anything that seems off. But I feel like I have bandwidth to take on this sort of application if it was of interest.
It's a generous offer and we accept.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems to me this is
Before you
absolutely
vote.
perfect. I
Yeah,
mean, this is the perfect,
Yeah.
this is an opportunity to help a town deal with affordable housing in the middle of the town where it belongs.
Yep.
On what was otherwise a disaster site. So, I mean, how could they turn you down on this? I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a good fit with
Mhm.
what everybody wants.
Can we take a vote? Who would like to be a part of the Google Drive and the conversation?
You.
And we'll have
You.
Sam fill in the jargon into
What do you
grant
think about
application format and vocabulary.
Yeah,
I'm
You
down.
guys want to be on it?
sure.
All right.
Can I
I'm
ask a
thinking we should
question?
do water testing too. I feel like that was another one Keziah mentioned a couple
Definitely.
times.
Like
Like what is
water,
the well situation?
Can we,
Water,
can we
wastewater.
find out whether there's bandwidth left in the septic system for housing there?
yes, we'll find out.
I mean, we don't need them to do that. We can do that, right?
Yeah, but we need the well part
Yeah,
of
we
it.
need the well,
But wastewater
percolation and
capacity.
septic suitability, hopefully we don't need.
Yeah, I thought we had capacity.
I thought we did too.
I'll
Sam,
find
I don't
out.
know if you would know this, but would it be possible that we could get like 2 of these in succession? Like, can we get one and do some initial work and then because some of these items like site design and land use planning, like I could see us being ready for that in a second round.
right?
I don't know if that's getting greedy, but
Well, that's one thing I'd like to find out, Sam, is just how much we can do in one, both financially, because I don't know, is there any share that we have to do? I mean, is it one of those things that the grant will take care of 90% and we've got to put up 10%, like on municipal planning grants? And is it twice a year? And you said it was a rolling thing. Do we want to do one every 6 months? Can we do that? Or find out more as to how towns deal with this and how they use it?
Please.
Yeah, I'm gonna call them tomorrow just because
Okay.
it's a good reminder. I left a voicemail and I didn't hear back, so I wrote down some of the questions you just asked. It is a kind of a elusive program. Like on their PDF, there's no mention of a match. I'm looking at their website right now. There's no mention of a match. So
Okay.
it could be possible that there is no match, but it would be a little surprising to me just because most times there is like some kind of match.
On the
But
other hand, as you said, it's not a large amount of money.
Yeah.
So I would just, I
That's
think
why
we
we gotta
just,
be careful.
my opinion would be just
Do it.
do it.
Yeah.
And, and then we'll try, if we can get one, awesome. And we'll put our, maybe squeeze as
it'll-
much in as we can under this one.
Yeah.
And if we can get another one, do another one.
Right.
And even if this one tells us, okay, then we have feasibility, then, we can
And,
figure out
and do
other
we
ways
have to
get
put out
funding.
RFPs
Yeah.
for this and find the own, people who are gonna do the certain things? Or do they supply this? I wanna know more as to how
Doesn't sound like it.
yeah,
for
it
this
sounds like
phase.
they may have people that they
It's pretty.
can suggest for,
So Ruth, you're asking, for example, if we
For
were
the
to
Brownsfield.
do testing of the ecological or healthiness of the soil.
yeah,
I think what Ruth is saying, Sam, is, do they send a team out, or more likely, do they give us 20,000 and we do an RFP and
Mhm.
find someone who does the work?
Yeah.
I believe it would be, I don't see anything about a competitive bidding process, but you would be responsible for hiring someone in some fashion.
Okay.
But I'll ask them about if there is kind of like, yeah, you probably have to do an RFP. They don't explicitly state that, but I would imagine that you do.
And if the cost is more than de minimis, we probably have to do an RFP.
Is there
Yeah.
someone in our network who usually deals with townwide like soil bearing capacity and percolation tests and test pits and things like
McCain?
that? Like,
Well-
do we have like someone who typically does it?
Civil
No.
engineer.
I assume it may be, there's the company there, that's the one that was done, the Brownsfield that was done.
Okay.
So that will tell you who did it.
Who is it?
Yeah.
Brownsfield Town Garage, Casa.
KAS Consulting in
KAS.
Williston.
Mm.
And
Sam, do you need anything else from us on this particular topic?
No, I jotted down some of those questions. Sounds like the main interests are like, a kind of environmental assessment, possibly water testing as well, possibly market study if we could swing multiple things. Those are like the points that I kind of collected from our conversation.
In that order, yeah, I think you nailed it.
exactly,
Okay, so I
mean,
can,
overall, if you explain to them the overall thing that's there,
Mhm.
it seems like, this is right up what they wanna do.
yeah, and they
This
do
is
say,
affordable housing in a downtown center. It's
Yeah.
taking a terrible site and doing something really great with it.
Mhm.
And if we can emphasize that, how can they resist? I mean,
Yeah.
this is perfect for what they want to do.
I completely agree. And they do say, like, in their little spiel, it's like projects that promote infill development and kind of traditional development patterns.
we're a match.
Yeah, we are a match. So,
Yeah.
Swipe left.
I think if they're giving out money, I'd be surprised if this wasn't right up their alley.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's awesome. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear tonight. So, yeah, I think
good.
I'm pretty good. I'll try and get a hold of them tomorrow, and hopefully I will. And then hopefully I have some answers to these questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Sweet.
And if you want to send stuff to me, I can get it out to the rest of the PC members.
Awesome. Cool.
Sam,
Thank you,
before-
Sam.
Before you sign off, though,
Yeah, a
we
little
want to
update.
hear, so this is our agenda change. Sam's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on at the MRVPD.
So another thing that probably will be of interest to Warren is about like a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, Ruth, Josh, and I got together to talk about submitting a neighborhood development area application for downtown Warren or Warren Village. And I am still working on it, Ruth. I'm a little bit behind. I had some like personal stuff come up over the last couple weeks, but I still am working on it. And I'm hoping to have something to send to you later this week. So essentially, for
Okay,
those
perfect.
who are not aware, a neighborhood development area is essentially a designation program that's going to be sunsetted towards the end of this year. But there's still opportunity to get in before the state changes their designation programs. And there's some certain perks to being enrolled as they call them NDAs, neighborhood development areas. So if you have a village center, there's a quarter-mile buffer around a designated village center that's referred to as a neighborhood planning area. And within that area, you can map certain natural constraints And where those natural constraints are not present, you can create what is called a neighborhood development area. And some of the perks of having a neighborhood development area is it essentially streamlines certain types of development. So Act 250 is less stringent for certain developments. There's application fees that are capped versus, so basically you have cheaper permitting fees. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm not remembering right now, but we agreed to help the town of Warren with that application. So that's one thing I've been working on. I was doing some of the mapping for that this morning. And then I'll be working on the narrative throughout this week. And we're hoping to have a meeting with the Department of Housing and Community Development in July. They'll have an opportunity to kind of give us feedback on our application. That's just part of their formal process. And then I believe the meeting in which the decision will be made will be in the fall. And we went through the same process with Waitsfield about this time last year. Pretty straightforward process. I feel confident that it'll all go through just fine based on what I was seeing in the mapping today. So that'll just be another kind of card up your sleeve when it comes to the type of infill development that you're trying to promote in Warren. So that's one thing I've been working on. I've also been working a lot with the Mad River Path to move forward their kind of scoping. So we're working on the Mad River Valley Active Transportation Corridor study. Which is, if you've been seeing things on Front Porch Forum or maybe Valley Reporter, it's essentially a 10-foot wide shared use path that's going to extend from Warren to Middlesex Village. And over the last like 9 or 10 months, we've been doing a scoping study, so kind of assessing the feasibility of it, finding out what issues we might have, and also doing a kind of public engagement process to see what level of interest there is in the project. Now that we've gone through that whole process, we have a good idea of what the public wants to see for the project as far as what's constructed, and we have a good understanding of what the natural constraints and logistical issues will be. And now we're moving forward into applying for funding to design the first segment of it. We were hoping to build the first segment of the path from Kingsbury Road and Waitsfield, which is where the Waitsfield Community Wastewater like leach field would be, just near Madbush Falls. And we were hoping that it would extend towards Irisville Village, but we ended up not being able to apply for that segment because the wastewater project's going to be starting construction next year in 2026. And the federal process for, we would be applying for VTrans funding through the Bike and Pedestrian Program, which is federal money. And that process is a slow process. So we were in conversations with VTrans to see if there's any kind of like, bending of that process, just because it would be such like an immense cost savings since people are already going to be tearing up the ground there. Unfortunately, not something that could be done, but more good news for Warren. We pivoted, and instead of applying for that Waitsfield section, we're going to apply for funding from Warren Village to Riverside Park. And the main reason for that is it will connect to existing off-road sections of the Mad River Path. And those sections would get us within about a half a mile from where we were hoping to do that Waitsfield section. So in not too far off future, there could be connectivity from Warren Village to Waitsfield Village. So that's why that decision was made. Josh has still been super involved in the Waitsfield Community Wastewater Project. I assist as needed, but I'm not as intimately tied into it, so I don't have a huge update there. I know they've been working really hard on getting additional funding with some success. Like, this might not be news to you guys at this point, but earlier this year, the project got an additional $2.5 million of funding from American Rescue Act plan, essentially because other towns were not able to use it, so it got repurposed to Waitsfield. So that was huge. And I know there are a couple, I think Vermont Community Development Program awards will be announced later this month. And I also think Northern Borders Regional Commission Catalyst Program will be announced at the end of this month. So or early next month. It could be a pretty big couple weeks for the wastewater project if either of those are funded. So just waiting to hear on that. And then the last thing I guess I'll mention, I had two things, I think, but one of them is the Sugarbush Access Road shared use path, which is another path project we've been working on for the last couple of years, um, is moving along nicely. There's been a couple hiccups we're in the middle of those. There's a couple different stages in the project where there's like a 6 to 9 month review period. One of those is NEPA review, which is essentially an environmental kind of site review. And they take into account environmental factors, but also things like historic structures. The bridges was flagged as a potentially historically significant structure. So they requested more information from the engineers about that. And
Excuse my snort.
okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
So
laugh, but-
that's slowed down the process a little bit. I
Oh
also
my
had a site
God.
visit with them. There's some questions about responsibility for a culvert that goes underneath the bridge's driveway. The bridges would like to see that culvert replaced as part of this project, which it seems like there might be a way to do that after all. But that has kind of not really, I mean, not really slowed it down, but just kind of another consideration that we've been dealing with. So those are the big things in my world. Happy to talk more about any of them, or if there's any questions. I had another thing I wanted to update, but it slipped my mind. Might come back to me though.
Well, I have two things. We got two reports at our last MRVPD meeting, Sam. One was the Sugarbush data report, and the other was that community recreation visioning.
Oh, yeah.
Was there anything from the Sugarbush data report? Is there anything that stood out that we should know? I mean, it was a good snow season. They had good skiers, but nothing was really to be honest, nothing really popped into my head as planning commission. It's really important, this piece of information from that data report. Was there anything that stuck out to you? Or that you
Um,
remember?
Nothing groundbreaking to me either, but I do have one thing I didn't think about is I didn't have access to the presentation, but I do have access to the actual report. So if everyone's interested in seeing that after the fact, I could send that along as well. Um,
Please.
I'm always interested by the energy usage, just because they've been able to reduce their energy usage so much, but it's kind of been similar for the last couple of years, like since 2014 when they saw that massive drop. So nothing, I can't think of anything in particular either, Dan, to be honest.
Okay, thank you for that. And then on the community recreation visioning, which was part of this VORAC, Sam's been very involved in it all along. Can you explain a little bit about what that was?
Yeah,
And that and it's now switching over to the MRVP, to the planning district? Can you
Yep.
maybe talk about that, please?
definitely. So the Conservation Recreation Visioning project was part of the VORAC grant, as Dan explained. And so the planning district led something called the Trails Collaborative a couple of years ago, maybe like 5 to 10 years ago. And the Conservation Recreation Visioning project kind of came out of that. And essentially, it's exactly what the title says, is kind of trying to balance conservation and recreation. And it was a unique group because it was the first time, people in the valley, I think, are pretty collaborative in a lot of ways, but it was the first time that a bunch of trails groups and a bunch of conservation groups actually got together on a regular basis and talked about kind of projects, best practices, philosophical discussions as well. Like, how do we want to go about this in the valley? And it's not a regulatory body, so there's no, similar to the planning district, I guess, there's no like decisions being made per se, but it's just kind of getting together and understanding that we value these two very important things and trying to figure out a way that we can have them accent each other instead of kind of taking away from one another. So to be honest, the planning district hadn't been super involved in, at least since I've been in at the planning district. So for about the last 2 years, planning district had not been too involved in this process. But around the end of last year, Laura Arneson from the rec district, who'd kind of been leading this project, was getting to the end of the grant. I think the grant closed out at the end of last month, and they're really just kind of finalizing small details right now. So she knew it was coming to an end, and she was looking for kind of a place for this project to go into its next phase. So as part of that project, they came up with their shared vision and guiding principle documents for trail groups and conservation groups to both kind of use moving forward. It's kind of a collaborative vision that they've cooked up based on foundations and beliefs that everyone has bought into. And then also some things like a trail development best practices guide. So again, it's not a regulatory document. You could still build a trail on your private property, but it's kind of, at least for these groups like the Mad River Riders, um, Mad River Ridge Runners, all these trail groups that are actively building trails, and conservation groups have agreed to, like, these are the kind of guidelines that we're going to subject ourselves to when building trails or when considering some sort of conservation area. Moving into the next phase of the project, we won't be doing these kind of like document creation or like collaborative projects with one another. It'll be more so be continued conversation. So the planning district is going to organize quarterly meetings. We'll reach out to all of the groups in advance of that and kind of act as like an administrator. So similar to how we do our other meetings, we'll come up with an agenda. We'll try and find, we'll reach out to all the groups and see who has a project that they want to update everyone on, and just kind of act as a convener for everyone to get together, talk about any successes, challenges, or projects that they're working on, and gain feedback from one another. So like if for instance, the Mad River Riders is thinking about putting in a new trail somewhere, all the conservation commissions will have an opportunity to look at that development and see, is there another trail in the area that could serve the same purpose? Are there any concerns within that area that the riders should know about, just as an example? So that's kind of the next phase. And then also at the end of the first phase of the project, there were some project priorities that were outlined as important, but they knew that they wouldn't be able to get to within that grant cycle. So different representatives agreed to take on some of those tasks, and it will also serve as an opportunity to update the rest of the group as to where those projects are. So, like developing a code of conduct and ethics for trail use in the Mad River Valley, kind of like the Kingdom Trails. That's one of those kind of larger projects that the group saw as important, but didn't think that they'd be able to manage at this time. So just keeping everyone abreast as to those individual projects and also offering an opportunity for input. That's kind of what we'll be looking at moving forward.
Thank you. I have a question on a different topic, but does anyone else have a question for Sam before I ask any other questions for Sam before I ask my follow-up question?
That's all really good stuff. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, my follow-up question goes back to the topic of housing. And we used to have this housing coalition. At some point in the future, it might be good to have a mechanism for public input and support. Is there any evidence that the previous Mad River Valley Housing Coalition is springing back to life, or is that body, to the best of your knowledge, basically dead? And maybe if we need a forum, we should be thinking about a Warren Housing Coalition. Do you have any idea about that?
To be honest, I don't really know much about the Housing Coalition, but Josh would be a good person to talk to. And I know someone did come by in the last like 6 months to our office to talk to Josh specifically about the Housing Coalition. Seemed like maybe there was some interest in getting it back going. I don't know the reason. I think the Housing Coalition kind of stopped happening around the time I joined the plan district. I don't know the reason. I don't know if it was like an administrative reason. I don't know if it was funding related, but Josh or Keziah, who was with you guys recently, would know a lot more about that than myself. I would imagine maybe it was just based on like bandwidth and availability to like oversee it.
I think I know why it failed, but I was just more curious as to, or I don't want to say failed, decided that it was a good time to take a pause.
Okay.
I just didn't know if you had heard any.
Only thing I've heard
to say, personalities and effectiveness were part of the issues that I think became overly frustrating.
Gotcha.
And may have precipitated. But anyway, we don't have to go there. Okay, that's helpful.
I think there was some light interest from one person in getting it going, maybe like in the last 6 months, but that's about all I've seen or heard, and I haven't heard anything since then.
And the only reason I bring it up is I've heard from housing people at times that community support and involvement is super important in
Mhm.
getting housing projects done. And I don't feel like we have sort of like other than, I don't feel like we have a dedicated mechanism for that. Maybe we don't need a dedicated mechanism, but anyway, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Really appreciate it, Sam.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Sam. Doing
Thanks,
the Lord's-
Sam.
Doing the Lord's work.
Yep, doing the Lord's work,
Yeah.
man.
Well, thanks for having me, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your meeting.
And
Thanks,
Good
Sam.
night.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye.
you know John Donaldson, don't you?
I do, yeah. very
When
well.
it comes to housing, the conversation with him might be, especially if, as far as putting a coalition together, or find out what he thinks, because
Okay.
he might have some interesting.
So Dan, did the coalition
Experiences.
take a pause or did they disband?
I think they essentially said,
What's the-
or it's like, unclear. They essentially disbanded on our indefinite pause. But it was it was like the whole Mile River Valley planning, housing.
But did they have a budget? Was there something left in their budget?
There's a little bit of money left that I think Perry Bigelow was the treasurer. Perry's
Okay.
come to a
Yeah.
couple of our short-term rental
Sure.
things. He was the treasurer, and I think he was trying to transfer the money back to the Mad River Valley Planning District
Okay,
because he didn't want responsibility
Yeah.
for managing this bank account. I don't know what happened. So maybe inviting Joshua, well, we figure out if it's really important. Like maybe that's not, maybe, do we need, it would be an interesting conversation to have with Joshua, is how important is a dedicated community body like a housing coalition, helpful, necessary, etc., to show community support and get community engagement. I think there was a lot of frustration about how hard it was, like a lot of time in meetings. Maybe as a planning commissioner, you can relate, a lot of time in meetings and hard to see housing getting built. Was, I think, what eventually people were like, we're spending a lot of time in meetings. Housing's still not getting built.
nobody's banging nails.
Or the people that were banging nails were able to bang nails to build, 2 houses. And they're like, what have we accomplished here? We've spent 3 years and we built 2 houses. I think that was part of the dynamic.
I will say that the one good thing that came out of it, even though I don't think it was as expansive as we would have liked, was the grant project they had for ADUs.
Was it great? That was great.
I thought that was a good way to get people going
Yeah.
on taking a structure on their property, or maybe going from scratch or something,
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
But it was like I think it was $10,000, and with construction materials and costs.
And then COVID happened.
The state had a 50, maybe, but I thought that, anyway,
Whatever.
I think it got,
And COVID.
between COVID and the cost of construction, whatever,
It's a flash in
monetary,
the pan.
yeah, it was not enough. Okay, sorry for that sidetrack. The next item on the agenda is CVRPC land use plan with Jim Crafts and Ruth. With Ruth. With Ruth.
Here is the Central Vermont Regional Planning map, the proposed map right now. I'm gonna try and get a blown up one of just Warren. This is all part of Act 181 that came about in 2024. And this is really just tied into the changes that they're looking to make or are making on Act 250.
It's all wasted on me, I can't read maps.
Yeah. It's, well, here, let me see what it does show.
Yeah, can you explain what it
Okay,
shows?
okay. What you've got on here, they have taken the Central Vermont area the district. And they have put in here village centers, planned growth areas, village area, and I'm not sure the difference between, I think village area is kind of that neighborhood thing that surrounds a village center potentially. Enterprise area, transition/infill, resource-based recreation, rural agriculture and forestry, and rural conservation. There's also some markings on here for hamlets, shows where the municipal boundaries are, and the Central Vermont Regional Planning boundaries. So it has, this is all the towns in the Central Vermont Regional Planning District.
This is the four corners
So-
of Hamlet.
Can we take a pause there just real quick?
Sure.
So villages.
Villages.
So the only village in Warren on there is,
Warren Village.
yeah, right, and should Sugar Bush Village be on there? Should Alpine Village be on there? That's what I'm
Should
asking.
the Four Corners be a mini village
Right. Or Hamlet.
or a hamlet, whatever?
Can I see that?
Sounds like
Sure.
there are
Yeah, sure.
advantages
It looks
to
like there's-
designating those spaces as villages, but maybe we don't need those advantages.
It's an interesting question. I've never thought of that. I mean, we certainly, the Sugar Bush area is already designated, has been for a long time designated in our town plan, as you know, as
As
a
a
development, yeah, you know, as a place where we want to see more development.
Right.
The Four Corners, I don't think has been, but I mean, at least in recent times, we haven't designated that as a growth area, but maybe we should. I don't know.
So
Simoto is,
they're drawing up the maps. Should we be thinking about reaching out to the select board and other people about, okay, I mean,
Well, was this the map that we just needed some slight corrections on?
no,
or
no,
just-
no, that's
this
different.
is- this
That's,
different
that's
map?
our zoning map. This is
So this is the future of the.
this is, as I said,
Future or
is
current?
Do you know
this,
what what the timetable is on
Draft
this, Jim?
future.
Is it like imminent?
it has to
I
do
thought
with
it
land
was
uses and how it, and how it is
second week
is,
of July or something
okay.
like that.
Maybe we
how
can get.
Act 250 is being restructured.
I'm not saying we
Right.
should, I want to make sure we at least think about it, and
I think these are great questions.
I
Can we
wouldn't
get
say
Chris-
Alpine Village or the Four Corners are candidates to be a village. But I would say that the Sugar Bush Village, it's got a bunch of commercial stuff in it, it's got some high density stuff.
there you go, maybe
know,
that is the measurement, right?
That's,
Do you have,
that to
better have
me,
commercial,
yeah,
what are you gonna do going forward? I mean, I think that's my question anyway, is that we should be planning for the future.
Mhm.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't plan commercial in Alpine,
It looks like
Um,
it's
but we
just-
would do, we would do more commercial in Sugar Bush, right?
Yeah,
We would love to see that, right?
yeah.
well, it's just
Those are the
designated
two
as-
areas that we've
Yeah.
said in the town plan are areas of increased density and
Mhm.
activity.
Now, this will not affect our zoning districts at all. It's not like we have to adopt
I'm
anything.
aware of that.
Well, according to this map, that area that you're speaking of
Is
is
a
either
resort.
planned growth area or a village area.
Sugar Bush Village, you're talking about?
Yeah.
I thought,
what I see.
when I look at it. it
Well, that's
looked
why
like
I had
resort
asked.
Slash resort something.
Well, I have two thoughts. Because I don't know, I don't have the answer to your question.
Maybe,
But I have two thoughts. One, we could invite Christian from the CVRPC, I forget his last name, Christian. And he may be able to answer some of our questions about the tier 1, tier 2. He offered to come and talk to us about tier 1, tier 2.
Yep, I
stuff.
think that would be good.
So maybe we should invite him
Okay.
and ask those questions. Would you do
Yep,
that? Yeah.
yep.
Because he said he'd love to talk to us anyway, so we'd love.
Yeah.
So let's see
No.
if we can get those questions answered by him.
Jim and I both, or at least I did, and I think Jim thought it was the same thing. Back on June 11th, VLCT had a thing on Act 181 and the LURB, which is the Land Use Review Board. And you know who our person is on the Land Use Review Board for the Central Vermont District?
No,
Rick Dingledon.
oh, awesome. My
And-
favorite person in the world.
Well, this is a whole different thing, so I think it'll be just fine. But, anyways, they're taking Act 250 and kind of, they're tiering it into 3 tiers. Actually, there's a fourth, because there's a tier 1 that's A and a tier 1 that's B, tier 2, tier 3. And is there a fourth? But anyways, as taking Act 250 and being more specialized as to the type of land. What kind of development do you want? In other words, trying to find that area that we have a hard time balancing with between conservation and development. Because they're very big on conservation in Act 250, you know, and
Well, Christian did a presentation,
to the Maverick Valley.
planning district, but it wasn't town specific.
Okay,
So I think it'd be really
Okay.
helpful to have a
right.
Warren, you know, like a Warren specific question.
absolutely.
So
Okay.
that's, yeah, let's kill a couple birds.
All right.
My question there would be, and I sent you a quick email on this, is there any way we can take advantage of those tiers and Act 250 in our town garage and new housing? Is that if we think forward and say, hey, if we're there, this tier, they become less intrusive. You know, we get a little bit more momentum as far as either one of those projects, and is there any help? Can we look for any help there? Not help, but
I would talk to Christian. I do remember him saying at the Valley, when he came to the MRVPD, that none of the Valley towns were gonna be tier 1. Certainly not tier 1A, probably not tier 1B.
Tier 1A, I thought was
More
the
like,
most critical resources in the state of Vermont.
I thought it was the other.
Or is
No,
that-
it's the other
is it
way
goes
around.
the other way.
Goes the other
Tier
way.
3 is
Yeah, is the.
Alpine.
Yeah, so tier 1 is more like really like developed, like really like cities, I think was what I remember him saying.
Yeah, it's tier 1, areas where robust planning allows for new dense development of all types without any Act 250 review. That's tier 1A.
So I read
Love
those,
it.
I've read those again too. They were really not helpful to say, what are you, what exactly you're talking about? When he came to the MRVPD, he was more specific and was like,
Okay.
that's not you, that's.
And then tier 1B, areas where existing Act 250 jurisdiction will remain, but where adequate planning allows for limited compact housing development without Act 250 review, up to 50 units on 10 acres or less. And then tier
That
2 is
project over there?
basically the existing Act 250 jurisdiction will remain unchanged with the addition of a road construction jurisdictional trigger to discourage sprawl and habitat fragmentation.
I've read those definitions many times.
Well, I wasn't
too,
sure if anybody else here.
But they don't
so-
mean it, but you know, they don't actually say, well, what exactly, to me, I can't read them and say, are you talking about Rutland or are you talking about Warren? You know, that's, and
Well,
I
they're
think when
talking-
when Christian came, he was like, tier 1, we're talking about Rutland, Essex Junction.
Yeah,
You
true.
know, like places like that. But let's get him here and he can
Okay.
translate for us because
Okay.
I don't wanna misrepresent. And when you sent your email, Jim, I dug into all those materials like Ruth, the same way Ruth is doing.
Yeah.
And I came away going, I still don't know what you're talking
Well,
about.
that's why I threw the question up there, is I couldn't. Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Thank
All
you.
right. Anything else on item 5? No. Item 6, new or other business. Short-term rental and looters status. Ruth, any ideas, any updates for us?
I haven't heard anything on STRs,
Okay.
so I assume it's still, I think it was supposedly by the end of June or something, we were gonna hear something from them. It's not quite the end of June. I will tell you that
Is that a
the,
select board or?
that's the select board. I got the maps, which I should have by the end of June, so that it'll be ready, as Jim asked, for the select board to have when they get the official, this is what we've got, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're gonna.
Then all that's happened is that they've gotten them,
Yeah,
Okay.
when they get the maps.
yeah,
'Cause they have to wait till they get the maps before they can make any actions.
I see.
Then they have to talk it over. And they have to decide whether they want to change anything and send it to the lawyers and make sure all that stuff gets squared away. and then they have to have a public hearing, and then they vote on it. So we got 3 or 4 months going still.
Jim,
Well, no. They all agreed on the changes that we made on the zoning districts. You guys
They
agreed.
they can't even talk about it until they have the maps.
And
Right.
they have, think how many new members they have.
Right,
Hopefully,
and,
hopefully that doesn't
and they
change.
do have, but it's the map
Mhm.
and it's the, and the legal suggestions
Okay.
that the town attorney, those are the two things that I'm aware of, that they have to agree are being added to what the existing document is that you guys have approved.
Okay, well, the longer they take, the
But they don't
longer
have-
we have Jim on the planning.
Yeah.
commission. So,
Wonderful.
for me, that's perfect. Take another decade and we'll
Sorry.
still have Jim on the planning commission.
Get it.
So I don't, yeah.
Does that answer people's questions on those two items? Any comments on that?
So I missed Looters, or not Looters,
STR.
STRs,
that STR. Yeah, I missed what's happening.
well, STR, we're still waiting on the ordinance, which is with VLCT, and to my knowledge, it has not been returned to us yet.
Okay.
But I
and
think that was
have
supposed to
you
be by
seen
the
any
end of this
updates
month.
From the Granicus?
Well, Julie got a certification on something
Okay.
recently, like today. But I'm not quite sure, I wasn't aware of it taking place, so I'm not quite sure what all it is. So I'm gonna have to find out from her tomorrow.
Okay. Anyone else have any new or other business? No?
Want to do an update?
Oh,
I don't know, is
Yes.
there anything to update on? Or just
Um,
keep continuing to work on the.
Yeah, on our community gathering.
Awesome.
We're going to the select board on July 8th to seek a permit. So far, we have 3 food vendors,
Oh, no kidding.
Dino Bones Barbecue, Gracie's Tamales, and Wildflower Sushi.
Nice, you go. Okay.
Alcohol?
Most likely, it's gonna be provided by the local, which is in Middlesex.
Okay.
They do,
Set across from Red Hen.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so they have, they sell alcohol at Camp Mead where they have those little concerts.
Okay.
But it's hopefully gonna be them, they'll probably do beer, wine, and canned cocktails.
Nice.
And things to be determined are the fun stuff like trash, water, and bathrooms and things like that. But we have some ideas, so.
Yeah, we were wondering how interested the Warren Library might be in sharing their facilities for the event in terms of like water fountain, drinking water fountain and restrooms.
have to ask. I think that you can do through the select board when you speak with them. I did suggest to Jenny, I don't know if she shared with you guys about, in making your application, to do not just, to put down 3 dates,
Oh,
August,
yeah.
September, and
We
October.
have 2.
Whether
so
you
we'll
do
put
them or
it for-
not, at least get permission for those 3.
Okay,
Yeah, we have.
Oh, there was-
Great idea.
You
yeah,
know, don't just do, we want
Yeah.
to do this on August 20th. In other words, put in a September date, a
Yeah.
potential separate
First
date.
of all, it might be pouring rain that day,
Yeah,
which would
yeah,
put
that's tough.
a real hammer into it.
I mean, people have tents and we have the pavilion for people to eat, but yeah, that would be not
Yeah.
ideal.
so we have,
Another question that came up was about Wi-Fi for vendors using Square. And I was wondering if we could just give vendors like town Wi-Fi, like whatever's in this.
Well, there
building.
is a
There's
public, there
Wi-Fi
is a-
in the,
Has Wi-Fi.
in
Oh,
the-
okay.
in the pavilion.
MRV free Wi-Fi or whatever it's called.
Okay, so there's free Wi-Fi here. That,
Yeah,
okay, that
it's
answers
Warren
that.
Public.
I'm on it right now.
Okay, cool, awesome.
We have one that's just for this meeting room, but there's also one that's public that people use in the parking lot all the time.
Yeah, there's somebody out using it in the pavilion as we speak.
Okay,
And,
cool.
and another thing we were thinking is like, you know, if we have all of these different vendors or different bodies like in charge of all the different things, then it just ends up being a lot of supervising and making sure that it all happens. So for something as simple as like trash and recycling, for an application for an event like this, would it be okay for us to just say like, we will take care of it? Like we as in like me, Michelle, Sam,
We
and
provide group bins basically and take it to the dump.
just take it
Well,
to
we
take it
have
to
the dumpster.
Earthwise.
And
Oh.
it is locked.
Okay,
It is locked, but I know where the key is.
okay, so would we be able to,
Who
use that?
has all the power?
This is huge.
like, if we supplied
So-
group bins, we could empty them there, like, for example, if they got full during the event, would we be able to?
Lisa, we're at the very end of the agenda.
Good.
Okay.
Perfect
Well,
timing.
I didn't see, I looked online and I didn't see.
So,
a
yeah, I
way to
think
join
that's totally
online.
reasonable, is that.
It was
hey, look,
there
we're gonna
on
just
the,
take care of
it's
it,
on
so
the
don't worry
agenda.
about it. We'll make sure it's.
Yeah, well, I'm
Online.
thinking, like, I have group
No,
bins
the
I can bring
agenda has
down,
the
and then
link
if they
on
get, we can
But
just
there was
dump it in
no
the town
agenda.
dumpster at the end, maybe, but Ruth
That's
has to be
all
on
right.
All
board.
my recycled.
I
bin
know I
down
put
from
it on.
I'm sure you
Priscilla and take it
But
back
when
home
I-
with me. I don't.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we were thinking of doing.
Yeah, that'd be super easy, right?
Yeah.
Is that we'll get two of them and bring them down and.
Yeah. So we're just
Okay.
trying to keep it kind of like low stakes, low, you know,
Yeah, there was a question with the local as far as like, would we be able to set up the perimeter or would they have to do that? And we kind of left that open. You know, I don't know if, you know, you need basically stakes and rope.
it's
I have a lot of
probably the-
rope, but I don't know, we could
Yeah.
probably pull that together.
Yeah, it's like, is it the vendors jump or is it ours or, you know, whatever. But these are the things we can just kind of like massage out as we go.
And I
Yeah.
think the select board will give you some feedback on that
Right,
too,
right.
as
Okay,
to what they think is appropriate.
but the Wi-Fi is, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's moving forward. Oh, and there's also several music options. One that we're pretty excited about is hopefully getting one of the Harwood High School bands.
Oh,
Now, this
cool.
is, Adam knows a little more about. I don't know. how-
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, it'd be fun to just get some like local music scene of like maybe, you know, like a band and then also like a high school band.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just want to have a stage and a platform where they can,
I may have a
Jam
couple
out.
suggestions and I'll
Make some
give you as
noise.
well.
yeah,
Kate Eternity,
Katie
Eternity.
Eternity.
That's my son's band.
All right,
He'd come play.
all right.
What kind of music?
Well, and we're able to
Good
take a
music,
cut
I
of the
guess.
vendor proceeds to pay for a band too.
Katie
So we have that
Eternity.
option.
Yeah.
Eternity?
And, yeah, and the other guys, he's from Northfield. My son's in it.
Sweet.
Yeah, they've been playing in Darlington, they've been playing around a little bit, so they're out there. But, yeah, if that interests you guys, let me know and I'll try to get a hold of you.
Sweet, yeah, we'd love that. Yeah, have them reach out to us. You have our emails, so.
Yep.
Just shoot them our way and we'll start organizing.
Do you want a demo? Do you want a demo tape?
Yeah, of course, yeah. We'll-
Ben,
we'll
Ben,
listen
Ben
to
could
it.
send you some music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Why
Cool.
not?
There's a
Yeah.
group that has, does fish cover music.
Oh, are you thinking Running in Circles?
I don't know if that's the name. I don't know the name.
Isn't
Okay.
I just
Miracles
know
of
somebody
Talking
who's.
Heads tribute band?
No, it's Josh Morse's band and they do play a fair amount of fish covers, but
Okay, yeah, I knew it was somebody local. 'cause there's
Yeah.
Another guy who does the drums, I think, for it.
probably Josh.
Now, this was his neighbor, that they just bought the place about a year or so ago on Dump Road right above them, to put in that.
Hey, Chicky,
Oh,
what about
okay.
Chicky?
Chicky Stole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chicky.
Yeah, there was some conversation with him.
I reached out to Chicky, he's interested, his band Ragged, okay, there's another thought, the Ragged Boys have another band called Automatic Slim, super fun.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Same
Chicky's
people,
band,
different band,
Automatic
alright,
Slim, apparently, I don't know,
sounds good.
Okay,
that's-
then you guys
yeah.
got options.
Yeah,
So
you
that's-
guys are-
that's-
you
we're
guys are
working
on.
on it.
Sounds
And we have
awesome.
multiple dates, right, so it'd be fun to have different
Right,
music for
Right,
different
yeah, if
dates.
you decide to commit to three, you
Yeah,
know,
that'd be
you
great.
can hopefully get a little bit of everybody over
Yeah.
that three.
That'd be nice. All right, that's our update.
Awesome. Lisa, since you came, are you here to make a public statement of some sort?
Oh,
or-
yeah, I know. I thought I saw on the agenda in the post office that maybe there was something about the town garage. So maybe you talked about it already, or maybe. I
No.
wasn't
That's tomorrow with the select
Tomorrow, the
board.
select board,
Yeah,
yeah.
because the select board's
So I was trying to be a good town garage advocate.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa is one of our citizens, has agreed to be a citizen advocate for the town garage project. Nice,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And I should say, very early, Lisa Lisa, do you know anyone on the planning commission at this
I don't
point?
think so.
Yes.
I don't think I know everybody.
Lisa used to be on the PC.
Oh, cool.
She was. She was on.
Yeah, and has always been an advocate for housing. Like before I knew where the town garage was, she was advocating for housing at the town garage site.
Right, and I think it was 10 years ago that they actually checked it for contaminants
Yes.
and found it,
2008.
2008, when I graduated high
You need to
school.
have it redone.
I'm sure,
That's pretty old.
I'm sure.
And we talked about getting a grant, there's a grant available for just doing that.
Nice,
Cool.
that's good.
So we might be able to
Nothing
get a
really
grant to do
changed,
that.
I'm sure.
2008. Oh, that's longer than 10.
Yes.
Oh, isn't it, you know?
And Lisa, I should mention, I haven't
Yeah.
done it yet, but I also spoke to April Smith.
Uh-huh.
And April's also interested in organizing folks in the village and get
Oh,
together. And, you know, she thought folks who live in the village would be very motivated to see the town garage relocated to a better location.
Yeah, I mean, you never know.
You know,
Right, you never know.
what people think, but anyway, April felt that way.
Okay,
And she's been talking about trying to do some organizing.
oh, sounds good. She's
So-
a real organizer.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And just to go around the table,
Oh.
Adam. Hi, Adam.
Adam, hi Adam, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen. it before.
Michelle.
Michelle. hi.
Michelle Bennett,
Michelle Bennett,
or
hi.
Jim Crafts, Hi.
Hi.
And you remember,
And
you remember
I
the two
do
of us.
remember you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, and
Yeah.
I'll come again, I think I'll go to the select board meeting on tomorrow, I saw. I don't know if it was the PC or the select board, that there was a really big discussion with Keziah Haviland.
Keziah.
Keziah, yes, that was us 2 weeks ago.
That,
It was us here.
yeah, I was away, but that's great.
Yeah, we're gonna
Now-
be talking about housing a lot, probably our,
Do you want, I mean, I have both the audio or the video of the meeting,
I'll ask you.
as well as it's on Mad
Yeah.
River Valley TV.
Oh, good,
So
So
if you want, if you want, if
housing's
you
gonna
want
be our
to, if you
topic
want
for a
to
yeah,
see that meeting that was 2 weeks ago with
yeah.
those two people there,
Oh,
by all
well, Thank
means,
you.
just,
I know that you're trying to help.
no, but I just wanted you to be aware of it, that those are options that you have, that I always send it to
Forget
them.
about Mad River TV. I'm trying to get my grandchildren to show me how to work my TV. So,
They're just on TikTok the whole time.
yeah,
Probably.
bring them in here, we'll talk to
Yeah,
them.
I send it to them, tomorrow morning,
Sure.
tomorrow afternoon, depending on what the
Sure,
morning's like,
sure.
and then
All right.
they probably get it done by maybe, it takes them a while, maybe later on Tuesday, if not Wednesday.
Cool. All right, that sounds good.
I don't want you to miss out on anything. Lisa. I want you to know that you can get that stuff. Okay,
Uh,
Juicy town goss.
Yeah, no Juicy Town Goss, and I think we're losing Michelle, who's starting to fade because she has a newborn at home.
Oh.
No, he's not a newborn. He's an
No.
infant.
An infant,
Yeah,
sorry.
he's big now.
He's
Yeah,
big.
he's been on.
He's, I said he's big.
How big is it?
He's like 15 pounds.
Holy
Oh.
crap.
Yeah,
It's
he's,
like yay big.
yeah, he's huge.
Damn. Time flies.
And so Jim, are you staying? Not, I don't mean tonight. You're still working on hoping to see the looters pass, right?
Yeah, so we haven't.
We're trying, it's becoming something out of Franz Kafka. I mean, seriously, it's so weird.
it will be done.
We've got them for another decade at least, Lisa.
Yeah.
Fear not,
Okay,
fear not.
well, I miss you guys.
We miss you.
Thank you for stopping in.
Yeah, and, yeah, have a good night.
Good night, Lisa.
We're out here too.
All right, and with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Shoot,
And the
Jim's
school
moving.
still
Jim's
has
moving.
the,
Second. all in
6:30
favor?
here tomorrow night.
Aye. We are adjourned at 8:16, folks.
Wow,
Nice.
lightning fast.
When did
Timing.
you go to Egypt? I went, February last year.